for IVs, we do like 100 million mesenchymal stem cells is like our anti-aging protocol. We're getting amazing results back on what are called DNA methylation tests. These give you your biological age versus your real age. We're consistently turning the clock back. It's incredible. They target inflammation. The root cause of almost every disease is inflammation, and they help the immune system. So all the things that can kind of aid you or lead to problems, they do. They're very preventative. So a lot of people come and do that like once a year. And then for higher doses, like 200 to 300 million IVs, is more for organ specific issues like heart failure, kidney failure, cirrhosis of the liver, or autoimmune diseases.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Joshua Ketner. He is the co-founder of Dream Body Clinic, located in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We're going to be talking about stem cell therapy, human growth hormone therapy, autoimmune stem cell treatments, and organ disease stem cell treatments. These are all options at the Dream Body Clinic. We'll be talking about how these work and how the clinic gets their stem cells, and the efficacy of doing these treatments outside the United States. We'll be talking about some myths and skepticism around some of these therapies. We'll be talking about the growing trend of medical tourism and the advantages of getting treatment outside of the United States. It's a fascinating subject and a big part of the future of medicine. So let's jump in. This is Joshua Ketner. Morning, Josh. It's so great to meet you. I'm really looking forward to talking to you today about stem cells, human growth hormones, all kinds of things that people can do to improve their well-being, my favorite word. You are in Mexico, so I think we're probably on the same time zone if I'm in Los Angeles.
No, you're a couple hours. It's what is it? It's 11 a.m. here. What is it? 9 a.m. there?
We're 9.
Yeah, if you look at Mexico, it kind of curves inland. We're right at the middle of the country, so we're central time here in Puerto Vallarta.
I know there's a lot of protocols that you can't do in the United States. You know, there's so many regulations, so many rules. Other countries, including Mexico, are able to do certain things. So you moved there, I think, for that very reason, because that's, there's a little more freedom to try some of these things that are, I guess, considered cutting edge, even though I see them as just alternatives to, things that traditionally have been in place and a certain percentage of time don't work.
Yeah, luckily here in Mexico, we have, look, the COFEPRIS is like the FDA here. So same, it's modeled on the FDA, so it's very similar. It's just the difference is they're a bit more open because we have socialized healthcare and private healthcare. And the socialized care really sucks unless you have like really bad cancer or something, then it's pretty good. But for the low end stuff, not so good. And because of that, it's unlike Canada, which, it's driven the costs up for private doctors. Here, it's kind of driven the price down because there's a lot of doctors. In fact, university here is free if you go to a state school. You do like your 6 years of med school, then you do like a year working for the socialized healthcare system. So because of that, doctors don't get paid as much and it's kept the price down. And because the socialized healthcare system has had such issues with like type 2 diabetes, and that's, I think, mainly diet driven because a lot of these people, they don't have a lot of money. They go and work all day and then they're hungry and they go to what are called OXXOs, which are like 7-Elevens on every corner. And next thing you know, they're eating some bimbo like pastries, which are like Hostess cakes, and washing it down with a Coca-Cola. So diabetes has run rampant here in Mexico. And it got so bad, they had to stop giving metformin for free. And that's one of the cheapest medications in the world. And when they found out that mesenchymal stem cells could actually help with type 2 diabetes, they got real excited. And with the help of some people I know, they were able to kind of fast track that and create a legal pathway to offer these, which they're not allowed to do in the US. And in the US, it's really held back by just the system because you can't patent a mesenchymal stem cell, and to get it approved, it would cost hundreds of millions to $1 billion, and you couldn't patent it, so you'd never get your money back. So the whole system's kind of rigged against new innovations if they're not coming from one of the main pharmaceutical companies, unfortunately.
When you think about Mexico, you don't think about better healthcare, or at least more, you know, I know, like, my first reaction it isn't this now, but was, whatever they're doing down in Mexico can't be too good because it's Mexico, and there's more poverty, and they don't understand what we understand. And I remember reading years ago that the actor Steve McQueen went down there to have some cancer treatments, and it didn't work, and he, was tricked, and so that was sort of the way of looking at Mexico, which I don't see it that way now, but that I think there probably is some prejudice against the validity of what goes on there.
Oh, for sure. Look, I mean, I grew up on the West Coast, Bay Area as a kid, then Seattle, and lived all over the West Coast and moved here. And yeah, I had the same prejudices. I didn't think it was going to be better for healthcare. But then I think the first issue I ever had was like my wisdom teeth grew in because I moved here 17 years ago. I think I was like 25, right?
Oh, okay.
And wisdom teeth come in. I'm freaking out. I'm broke at the time. I'm like, this is going to cost a fortune. I have no dental insurance. And then for like $100, the guy got in there and took him out, and it was perfect, worked amazing. And then you start seeing, you can go see any specialist. I'm talking like an orthopedic surgeon, a cardiologist. It's like $50 for an appointment, and they usually can get you in that day or the next day. They have all the best equipment. Like, I mean, we get some of these top doctors from the US come to our clinic, and when they see our cardiologists and the equipment they have, and they're just like, it's not what I expected. And so it's
right.
pretty incredible.
It's good to hear because, you think about traveling there and getting sick, or, moving there. A lot of retirees go there. A lot of people are now leaving the U.S. because of the political climate. And it's like, that would be a concern of like, what's my healthcare going to be like? And it's great to hear that is the case there. I guess the private healthcare would be the better one, is what you're saying. And how expensive would that be?
Yeah, it's really affordable. Plus, insurance, if you live here, is much more affordable. Like, I have MetLife coverage for my whole family. I think it covers us for up to like $1 million anywhere in the world. And I don't know, it's way, I've talked to my friends back home, and it's way, way cheaper. We're talking like hundreds, not thousands per month. And it's just as good. In fact, back in March, I had an issue. My mom in the past had a TIA. It's like a mini stroke.
Yeah.
Turns out her atrium wall in her heart had a hole in it, and turned out I had the same thing. I checked it out. And in the US, the standard of care was, oh, just wait till you have a really bad stroke, and then insurance will pay to fix it, because it's like $100,000 procedure in the US. Even here, it was about 40 or 50,000 US. And luckily, I got my insurance to cover it. I fixed mine back in March. It was like a 45-minute procedure, and I did it with the cardiologists we work with, who are incredible. But I mean, it was just top tier service. And that, look, like anything, there are bad things that can happen. There are doctors that don't care, but if you even do a little bit of research, you find out you can get just as good, if not better, care somewhere like Mexico. And, that's why we do what we do, because the medical tourism side, you want to think America's the best at everything, but they've fallen behind on healthcare, unfortunately, from what I've found.
So the doctors in your clinic, are they both American born and Mexican born? Is it a mixture?
All Mexican.
They're all Mexican. Okay.
Yeah. We have 3 full-time doctors for just stem cells. I've got 2 anesthesiologists. I've got 2 cardiologists, an internist. We need different doctors for certain procedures. Like for heart procedures, we need the cardiologist and the internist. For like intrathecal brain type treatments, we need the anesthesiologists. And they work on more like a part-time as needed basis, but we do a lot of those treatments, and they come in and get to help people out.
Yeah, I was looking on your website. Why don't you say the name of the the clinic so everybody can hear that right up
Yeah,
front.
so we're called Dream Body Clinic. If you go to www.dreambody.clinic, all the info's there, and you scroll down on the homepage, all the treatments are listed. And we mainly do orthopedic treatments are probably number one. Knees are the top treatment. Everybody's knees go at some point, either arthritis, meniscus, or ligaments. So that's number one. Probably lower backs and necks are number two. And then we do a lot of autoimmune diseases like MS, ulcerative colitis, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis. We're helping people get into full remission with those treatments from the MSCs. And
Wow.
then there's also a lot of organ specific things like heart issues and liver and kidneys. So it's a pretty wide variety of things that these help with, fortunately.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about next was the various issues in the body that you treat. Are they treated with a different type of stem cell? And is it administered differently? I mean, I know orthopedic, you have to target a certain spot where the issue is.
Yeah.
I actually have looked into a little bit, or I've had somebody on the show, but this seems more, and I guess for the longevity stuff, that's more of a general kind of a infusion. Is that the right word? I don't even know if it is the
Yeah.
right word.
Intravenous IV.
Yeah,
That's
and that would be like
it's
probably less expensive than a specific thing.
Yeah, when you break the cost down, I mean it's more overall because we use a lot more cells when we do an IV. For IVs, we do like 100 million mesenchymal stem cells is like our anti-aging protocol. We're getting amazing results back on what are called DNA methylation tests. These give you your biological age versus your real age. We're consistently turning the clock back. It's incredible. They target inflammation. The root cause of almost every disease is inflammation, and they help the immune system. So all the things that can kind of aid you or lead to problems, they do. They're very preventative. So a lot of people come and do that like once a year. And then for higher doses, like 200 to 300 million IVs, is more for organ specific issues like heart failure, kidney failure, cirrhosis of the liver, or autoimmune diseases. So that's the IV side of it. And then for joints, yeah, we have our own MRI machine on site. We do MRIs of the joint, we inject it. Super simple, most anticlimactic thing you'll ever do. And it usually takes like 3 to 6 months to see peak results. But we're helping tons of people to heal up from these injuries. They might have to get a replacement joint at some point, and this prevents that.
Where do we get the stem cells from?
Yeah, so we take the stem cells from umbilical cord tissue, and it's called Wharton jelly. It's on the inside of there and the placenta. So when a woman gives birth, that's tissue that's normally just thrown away. But they found over time, like we got to work with Dr. Arnold Kaplan. He was the professor from Case Western University up in Ohio that named these in the early 90s. And we worked with him, and what he found was that they're not really a stem cell when you put them in the body. In the lab, he was able to turn them into all these different cell types. They're considered multipotent. He said he'd make them dance, he'd change what they are. But when you put them in the body, they don't change. They actually work more like the manager on the construction site. They're attracted to inflammation, and when they get there, they start sending out all these different signals, and they act like the manager guiding the repair process, creating the perfect environment. Because I mean, I'm sure anyone that's had a corporate job or worked construction, if you don't have good management, things don't really get done. And the same thing applies in the human body. So as we age, we have fewer of these. So by putting them in large numbers, they can get in there and create the environment to help you heal like you did when you were a little kid. So that's really the best way to look at it and how they work once they're in your body.
Yeah, so it helps the body to do the healing. It doesn't come in from the outside and heal something. It triggers things in the body. And you said signal, which is kind of an interesting word. I think that's the word you said.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a vibrational almost when you think about how the body sort of has these different rhythms to it. And
Yeah.
so it signals chemically, but it also seems like it would signal in other ways.
There's a lot of ways. They truly don't even fully understand it. I mean, when an area is damaged, it does send out signals, whether they're cytokines, which are these, kind of signals, or chemokines, chemical signals. There's different things that get sent out. And for whatever reason, the MSCs receive these messages. attracted to it. When they get there, they have a bunch of tools. They call them exosomes now. They
Yeah.
originally called them extracellular vesicles, but there's 1,000 different types of these. And the best way to look at it is imagine the MSC is like an aircraft carrier, and it's going to the area, and it's got all these jets that have like a single bomb, single payload, very specific, and they can send these out. And for whatever reason, they know which ones to send, and it'll send a chemokine or a trophic factor or whatever, a growth factor, whatever's needed to that area to start influencing the other cells, recruit help, and lead that communication to start healing the area. So it's really, it's like a manager on a construction site. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, it's very organized, but it's disarray and it's not getting healed otherwise. So you got to create this environment to first get rid of scar tissue, which is a huge problem because white blood cells go to the area first, and they can only heal via fibrosis. So it's like a patch up job. And that actually prevents your natural like ways of healing with growth factors and different things in the bloodstream. So the MSCs have to get in there and then first remove the scar tissue or tell the things to remove it, and then start fixing the underlying tissue. And that's why, things like PRP are awesome if you did them the day after you got injured. But if you don't do them immediately, your only other hope is this, like mesenchymal stem cells to get rid of that fibrosis.
Absolutely phenomenal. Some of the things you were saying, like fibromyalgia and arthritis, my mother had both of those things.
Mm.
And I was thinking, wow, wouldn't that have been an amazing thing to be able to help her? I mean, she's been gone for a while, but she
Yeah.
lived to 94, so it wasn't a bad run. but
Yeah.
but there was a lot of suffering because of it. The other issue I think is that it's expensive relative to things that insurance pay for here. And so what I'm sort of hopeful about is that the more popular this becomes, the more the price will drop and make it more accessible to people. Is that something you're seeing, or is it not happening yet?
I mean, I don't think you could go much lower than the prices you would see at my website. The thing is, just to build a lab to do this, which we've done, I mean, you're looking millions of dollars there. And then, inflation sucks. Like all of
Yeah.
the stuff, yeah, right? We need to make these is like the culturing medium. This is the food when we're replicating the cells. You need that. You need to bring in flasks. You need to bring in all this equipment, typically from like the United States, is most of it from places
Mm-hmm.
like Thermo Fisher and whatnot. And that, the cells themselves, like if all you had to do was take the placenta and all that, wouldn't be that crazy of a cost. But when you start adding in the biologists and these different, materials needed to do it, it does add up. But a lot of these clinics have taken it way too far. I mean, for example, we do 100 million IV right now is like $3,850. And there's clinics out there, charging like 20,000
Oh,
plus for the same thing. And it's exorbitant. I know their costs. It's just ripping people off, in my opinion. I
sure.
got into this because my dad had Lou Gehrig's disease, and I saw how messed up the system was up in the US. And, our goal's always been to keep it as affordable as possible to help as many people as possible. So, I mean, there's still a cost, but we try to make it as affordable as possible. And yeah, I think it'll stay around that area is kind of the best you're going to get for it.
Could a woman who has a baby actually charge the hospital to take her placenta?
No, that would be human trafficking. That's illegal. You can't sell human tissue.
Okay.
But look, we work with a team of
But
gynecologists
you
that
buy
only
it
work
from the
with.
hospital, right? Or you don't?
Well, we work with a team of gynecologists that they only work with first-time mothers. They only do C-section births because the only way we can keep the placenta and umbilical cord sterile. So we need
Mm-hmm.
that. And there's all these qualifications, but we only need one of these every 2 to 3 months. So we're not going through a lot of them. So we have a
Oh,
pretty big pool to choose from. And yeah, they definitely make it, more affordable if you go to say a clinic like this to do it, but they can't pay them directly for the tissue or anything. No.
oh, okay. So it has to be a gift.
Yeah, basically. They sign a waiver saying, "Yes, I donate this," and that's it. Yeah.
And then what are the issues with the mother? Are there certain qualifications that she can't have certain uh, diseases or vaccines?
For sure. So look, a mesenchymal stem cell can't carry a virus, so we're not worried there. But you want, this is why we want such young women, because, if a woman gives birth after the age of 30, it's technically a geriatric birth. As crazy as that sounds, it sounds horrible.
It
Women get
does.
offended when you say it, but that's the truth is the younger you are when you have kids, actually, the higher the chance you have a successful, zero complication birth. So we want these real young women. We want to make sure they're married. We ask them how many sexual partners. And we ask that because, again, an MSC can't carry a virus, but if the donor had a retrovirus, there's a less than 5% chance of carryover. And most of those are sexually transmitted or bloodborne. So we test the women, then we test the tissue, then we test the isolated cells, and we test the cultured cells. So we third party check everything. We also hear anyone that got the COVID vaccines, there's a federal database. I'm not really worried about that, but I have a lot of patients that didn't get the vaccine and don't want it from anyone that did. So
Oh, okay.
we screen that out too, which is pretty easy because it wasn't free here in Mexico. So most younger people didn't get it anyway. And yeah, we check for all those different things. And then we provide third party analysis to our patients that come. It's not us just saying, hey, these are good. No, we provide all that evidence and, data on the cells.
So these cells are coming from young women who are married and mostly in Mexico then.
All Mexican.
Wow, interesting. I love this. All right, now I want to talk about some of the specific things that you treat and how
Sure.
you do that. There's autoimmune. Let's start with autoimmune disease and then maybe do something with, was there some stuff about the brain too?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
got some great brain stuff. So, look, the first autoimmune disease that blows my mind is multiple sclerosis. So, that involves both the immune system, the spinal
Mm-hmm.
cord, the brain. So, for the autoimmune part of it, whether it's MS, type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, whatever, it's an IV. And what we've found is it's kind of dependent on weight. So we found ideally 1.4 million stem cells per pound of body weight. That works out to 3 million per kilogram. And with that is it's like a parabolic curve that starts to flatten at the top, right? You hit this point of diminishing returns. So if you weigh, like, say, 100 to 150 pounds, a 200 million IV is perfect. But if you're over 150 pounds, you're probably looking at a 300 million IV. I mean, some of the bigger guys, like, I'm 6'3", 245 pounds. I could probably do a 400 million IV, but the most I've ever done is 300 million. That's usually where we go for guys with those issues. And the IV will go through your system and it interacts with the immune system. So right now, if you have an autoimmune disease, it's attacking some specific part of your body. Like rheumatoid arthritis might be affecting your fingers, or MS, spinal cord lesions, brain lesions. So we want to stop that first. And that's what the IV does. It interacts with the immune system, sends out these specialized cytokines, and it's like hitting the factory reset button on your immune system. And this is why we want them from such young donors. Because if you have MS, you don't want your own cells. You could take them from your fat, your bone marrow, different tissues. As long as it's got capillaries, it's got mesenchymal stem cells, because that's where they live, on the outside of the capillaries. And so, but they're already compromised. They're not working the way they should. So we want these really young, healthy cells that are going to work the right way, and they're going to reprogram your immune system like to that factory reset, start protecting, stop attacking. And the great news is, for most people, it's a one and done kind of thing. I'd say about, 80% of people get this done, and it's a one-time thing, and they go into remission. And it can come back, but it's rare, and it's usually more like diet dependent or things that they eat. Like, I think there's a huge connection between all the stuff they spray on the wheat and things in the US. I think that causes a lot of these autoimmune issues, but we can't prove that. But you do see when people go back to like a high, like, bread, carb type diet, then things might come back. But for most people, it gets fixed. It's good. Maybe 15% of people see improvement, reduce medications, but they might need a second round like a year later. And then there's about 5% of people across the board with stem cell treatments are just non-responders. It's rare, but everybody's physiology is different. Some people just
Mm-hmm.
don't respond. We don't know why. It's just what it is. Fortunately, it's a really low amount. And then The next thing for like the brain would be like intrathecal. We go into the spinal cord fluid with the stem cells. It allows the cells to go up the spinal cord to the brain and start healing.
So does it work with certain types of brain cancer or tumors? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about Alzheimer's and dementia, those kinds of things?
No, for brain, we don't treat any cancer. No, we have a rule actually. We won't treat anyone with cancer that has had cancer within the past 5 years. And it's not that we're really worried. The stem cells themselves are non-tumorigenic. They don't cause cancer. They, in fact, if anything, can help reduce it. But just for say, there's clinics out there saying that stem cells will help cancer, and it's just misleading and it's not right. These aren't a good fit. So we just have that rule. So what we treat mainly, stroke recovery is probably number one, traumatic brain injuries,
Mm,
number two, and just some people just want brain optimization. Maybe they, like me, I played every sport you can think of growing up, had some concussions,
yeah.
drank way too hard on the weekends when I was younger. So, I figured let's fix those things. And that's what the intrathecal can help with.
Yeah, I've had a guy in here who had CTI symptoms, CTI, traumatic, which is basically traumatic brain injury and really
Mhm.
serious side effects. It
Yeah,
kind of almost wrecked his life. And he only found kind of one thing. It was hyperbaric oxygen. That's the only thing that helped him. He's got machine in his house, basically. And it's the only thing that's keeping him able to function. It was really a
man,
serious thing, and it was a sports injury. He was an Olympic athlete, and of course the Olympic people didn't help at all. They kind of don't even tell the athletes about some of this. He was a bobsled guy, and major head injuries. A lot of people have brain injuries. That's it's really easy to get your head whacked at some point in your life, whether you're in sports or not.
for sure.
Well, this is just a personal thing. I've had prostate issues. I'm 71. A lot of older men have that. Is there any success with that from stem cell?
So for prostate health, yes, we actually do have a treatment for that. And it's kind of what you would think. We go right into the perineum and we inject there. It's a really tiny needle, ultrasound guidance, and we inject all around the prostate and it helps shrink it. The stem cells also send out a lot of what's called LL37. This is a peptide your body naturally makes. It's one of the most effective natural antibiotics there is. It'll destroy bad bacteria, keep the good. And with a lot of BPH, you end up with it being like with the prostate is, got some bad bacteria. That's not always the case, but if
Mm-hmm.
it is, this will help tremendously. If it's just inflammation, it's getting larger, it helps with that too. It's a really common treatment we do, but I always tell guys with prostate issues first, like if your PSA isn't too high, the neck and you want to do an ultrasound of your prostate. It's like you're pregnant. You drink a bunch of water, they do your lower abdomen,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see how large it is. So we always do that for all of our patients so we can check. But you need to be aware too, like for a lot of guys, the symptoms are you wake up throughout the night having to pee, right? Like
Yep.
this is a real common issue. And what I found is I had a good friend of mine up from Seattle where I'm from, and he's in his 50s, and he did the treatment. We shrunk his prostate, we got the ultrasounds, the PSA numbers to prove it, but he was still waking up a lot at night. And so another thing guys deal with that they should always try first is they're considered male Kegel exercises. So these are
Mm-hmm.
exercises for the muscles down there in the pelvic floor. A lot of times those get weaker as we get older, and that can lead to these like having to go to the bathroom all the time, or it can be bladder issues. So there's always a few things to check. But as far as like the prostate itself, if it is enlarged, we have a very great protocol for that. That's been working really, really well.
Yeah. So the PSA would be a good test for that too, and then actual ultrasound.
Yeah, the PSA isn't, it's a good indicator, but sometimes a guy will have a really normal PSA, but he's having the issues, and then we ultrasound it, and yeah, his prostate's way larger than we thought. So, the PSA is always a good one to start with, but the ultrasound is much more accurate for if it really is enlarged or not.
Yeah, I think I did an ultrasound years ago.
or an
Hmm.
MRI. Maybe it's the same thing.
Yeah,
I
an
don't know.
MRI is even better. And I mean, that's why I think it's crazy. People go and get the old finger test. And I'm like, there's scans you can do instead. Like get
Yeah.
an ultrasound, get an MRI, and you can see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's what I did with the MRI. There was no issue really that was worth taking a look at.
Smart.
At least then, I'm going back tomorrow actually for my annual physical. I'll keep you posted.
All right.
I'm talking to my audience and you, because people really care.
Yeah.
I was looking at the website and you had sort of like a 4-day plan or something about, you fly in and then the next day you do some testing and all that, and then you do the treatment and then you go home the next day.
Yeah.
As sort of an ideal sort of shortest type of visit you would have. People probably come there in vacation, huh?
Oh, yeah. And the good part is you're not at the clinic like that much time. So you're going to have plenty of time to enjoy the beach. Puerto Vallarta, we call it cheap Hawaii. It's like jungle mountains meet Pacific Ocean. It's just beautiful. You got amazing food, amazing beaches. So it's a great place to vacation. I mean, there's probably more Americans and Canadians here than Mexicans. So it's
No.
real easy to get around. It's
Mhm.
super safe. I know people worry about safety,
Yeah,
but
they
look, I've
do.
lived here 17 years and I've never even seen as much as a fist fight, let alone a violent crime. It's funny. People think like, Mexico's so dangerous and the border is, but once you're south of the border, it's probably one of the safest places in the world, especially the tourist towns, because the narcos, they don't want problems. That's not good for them. So like
Yeah.
they keep it safer than probably even the police. Like there's no drug dealing, so there's no bad neighborhoods. Like you're not going to end up in the bad part of town. It doesn't exist because they don't allow it to exist. So it's actually a lot safer on a lot of levels.
Let's say somebody comes in, and I guess it's sort of contingent on what type of treatment they have. But let's say they have a longevity treatment. It's just an IV, and there's no specific area that's targeted. When do you start to feel the results? Is it immediate? And what does that feel like? I'm sure you've done this because you're
Oh,
there.
sure. So, look, it's different for everyone because it depends what's going on. If you're already healthy, the
Mm-hmm.
things I noticed was like my kids would get sick and I'd get really tired in the afternoon and maybe take a nap that I don't normally have to and just wake up feeling perfect. I'd never get sick.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed I started putting on muscle easier. Like I do work out a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first year I did an IV, I think I put on like almost 10 pounds of muscle, barely trying. It was a 300 million IV. Even the 100 million can help a lot, but it makes sense. You create inflammation, targets inflammation, starts healing. So you notice little things. It's not like super profound. The people that have like the profound jumping off the wall kind of stories are
Mm-hmm.
typically people with a lot of adrenal fatigue. Those are the
Yeah.
people like me. I don't really have any issues. I do an IV. I'm pretty lethargic for a day or two because my body's healing. People with adrenal fatigue, like they're running around the block for like a week straight because they finally have energy again. It's crazy.
Do you feel like you've gotten younger? I mean, you've probably tested yourself too. Biological age versus chronological.
Yeah, I need to do one of the tests actually. They're tougher to get here in Mexico, but the next time I head up to the US, I'll get one. But we've had a lot of patients do those DNA methylation tests and they've worked incredibly well. I've got a great testimonial of a lady who's 62, her husband's 70. He's done his knees but never did the IV. She's done the 100 million IV every year for 5 years and her test came out showing she was like 27 on the
Oh my
biological
gosh.
age.
I was going to say, I was going to go like 40 at the lowest.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen
27.
that too. But hers, I mean, this lady still competes in fitness competitions. I mean, she's in great shape.
Yeah.
But her husband's in good shape too, and his came out at like 80. So that convinced him to start doing the IV treatment because, he had never done it and she was seeing such great results. So we are getting
Oh,
really
so he
good
was
data like
higher than
that.
his chronological age, actually, is what you're
His
saying.
chronological was 70.
Yeah, but you said he came out at 80. What does that
Yeah, his
mean?
biological age. It
Yeah,
was older than his
that's what I'm
chronological.
saying. Yeah, so he was older than his chronological age biologically. Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
would be a depressing number to get.
Yeah, and A lot of people are. I mean, the diet, different things have a huge effect. I mean, the crazy part with those tests is if you spit into the tube on a day you had like an argument with your wife, you're going to show up like probably 5 to 10 years older than you would have if you were having a good day. So I mean, there's a lot of variables to these tests too.
That's oh wow. So the emotional component of what the body fires inside when you're upset. That would be that's
Yeah,
an
I had a
interesting.
long talk with a biologist from one of those companies, and he was explaining that to me, and I was like, "Well, it makes sense, but it's crazy."
So don't get pissed off right before the test
Yeah,
or depressed.
yeah.
Have people gotten off of certain medications now, not just for physical things, but it's people that are on maybe, let's just say Prozac.
For those sort of things, not with stem cells.
Hmm.
Typically, with that, it's been more like from like hormone replacement therapy. I mean, I've helped more guys get out of depression and feel better just by getting on testosterone than anything else. So, I think hormones are a much more important factor than any SSRI or, type drug.
Yeah.
Most people don't even think to look at it because the numbers they give you in the US, they'll say, oh, your total T is like, 400. That's great for your age. But you're like, I want to feel like I'm 20.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
the
Well,
easiest way to fix it.
yeah, those numbers are very precarious because they're I don't know what they're based on, and they're based on different. The numbers are different in different parts of the country, and you don't really know what
Yeah.
the test group is, and they don't want to treat until it's over the limit. It's like, well, that's not optimal. I want to be optimal. I don't want to be just
Yeah.
too low or too high, just under those things. So it doesn't. It's a I guess it's a valuable thing to be able to do, but the analysis of it seems to be not really in the best interest of the patient.
Let's go back to the prostate thing. I mean, they've been saying for decades that, the theory is, well, men have testosterone, so high testosterone must lead to prostate
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, not
And I
true.
mean, I've worked with some of the top bodybuilders in the world, and not one of them's ever had a prostate issue, and they've straight abused testosterone, and
Yeah.
and they're the guys who never get prostate cancer and stuff. So the more they're looking into it, the more they're finding that kind of old thinking's not accurate, but it's really tough to change that paradigm because so many people still believe it. And, you got to do your own research and find what works for you.
Okay, now let's talk about human growth hormone and why somebody would do that and how that is administered and what is it exactly. It's not from humans, is it?
Originally, it was from humans, and that led to some, Creutzfeldt-Jakob issues like mad cow for humans. So that's how it was originally sourced. But they found in the late 70s how to synthetically make it, and it's been available since like the 80s. And it's a peptide. It's a
Oh,
191 chain polypeptide amino acid. And that's only important because it's bioidentical. Your body can't tell the difference between this and what it naturally produces. And its main pharmacological use is for little kids that are not growing tall enough. And the rules are so strict. I mean, pretty much have to be a legal midget to qualify. The only other like reason they would prescribe it would be HIV muscle wasting. And that's actually how I learned about it. My dad had Lou Gehrig's disease, and he's this rocket scientist, big aerospace company up in Seattle. And this is 20 years ago. And he looked into, well, it's a muscle wasting disease. Like, how do we treat other muscle wasting diseases? And he found out for HIV, they throw testosterone and growth hormone at you like you're a bodybuilder. So he's like, give me that. They wouldn't do it. They were like, no, no, that
oh,
falls under the Anabolic Steroid Act. And he's like, I'm
yeah.
50 and dying. It's like, who cares? But those were the rules, right? It's stupid. So he passed, but when I moved to Mexico, when I met my wife, her sister's a doctor, and that's when I realized we could get growth hormone, and it's legal to seek medical treatment abroad and return home with 50 dose units. So we just write a higher dose than you would really take. It matches the law. You go home with a year's supply. Now, again, it's mainly for little kids. So you're like, oh, well, that's, why would an adult want this? But they're finally doing studies on it. And the military's been doing studies on it for decades. And I know this because some of the top military doctors are my patients. And they have
Yeah.
access to these studies, but they give it to these top end soldiers. So they're never going to release this to the public. And the newest study is called the TRIM study, TRIIM. And then the one after it was TRIM-X, TRIIMX. And what they're finding was they gave 10 men about 2 IU a day of growth hormone with some metformin and some DHEA, the precursor to testosterone. And they found after a year, they were all a year and a half younger, according to the DNA methylation test. So they proved it was turning the clock back, not majorly, but that's really like 2.5 years because they aged during that time. But the new study has found you've got this little gland right here behind the sternum called the thymus, and its big thing is producing T regulatory cells. And that's huge as we age to keep our immune system going. It also produces nitric oxide, which helps the heart, and it shrinks as we age. So now they're finding growth hormone actually helps bring that back to normal size and shape, which means you're getting those, factors back to normal for when you were younger. So they are finding really good anti-aging benefits. But on top of that, the reason I take it, and I've been on it for 12 years, is it binds to fat cells. Well, everybody likes to lose fat easier, so it does that. Helps you get skinnier. It creates lipolysis, so you breathe out fat. So that's why cardio is so good. This just makes it easier. You lose fat like when you were much younger. It also binds to muscle cells. So if I don't know if you've ever gone to the gym for like a month or two and you're feeling really good and strong and you take a week or two off and you just lose it all, right?
Yeah.
It happens to everyone. When you're on growth hormone, that doesn't happen. You maintain the muscle and you just plateau. Like when I started this, I was 180 pounds. I'm like about 245 now. That's because I could take these breaks and always just kind of keep growing. I do take testosterone with it, which helps a lot, but you got to do the work, but you keep the muscle, you lose the fat, you have certain memory cells that have receptors, so it helps your memory. And then it gets to your liver and it converts into what's called IGF-1, insulin like growth factor 1. And this is a growth factor in your body that helps heal tissue. So you heal faster. So if you're, vain like I am, you like to work out, like this is testosterone's a low-hanging fruit, growth hormone's kind of the cherry on top.
And you've had no side effects from any of this stuff.
No, with growth hormone, look, the main, again, they use old anecdotes to try to scare you off of it because what they'll tell you is if you have increased IGF-1 levels, if you got a cancer, a tumor, there's certain types that feed off of IGF-1. Well, now it's going to grow out of control and you're going to die. But it's not the way it works. In fact, growth hormone helps your cells replicate faster and more efficient. So it's actually very cancer preventative. So you would have to have cancer, know you have it, and keep taking it to have an issue. And it's only in your system like 12 hours. So if you ever got cancer, had an issue, you just stop taking it and you're fine.
It's amazing how much fear is a part of these things. You wonder why is that? Human beings love to scare themselves. I know that, but but is there a control issue from the top? And fear is part of that too. It's we want to keep the things the way that status quo, so we're going to scare you away from alternatives. I think that's a factor in a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and you got to think governments don't like strong, healthy men that think for themselves. And growth hormone and testosterone do that. I mean, it's proven. Yeah, I've helped more men get successful with their business just by getting on testosterone than I can count because it produces more dopamine. And dopamine's the molecule of more. You're always chasing it, but you can't catch it. In fact, there's a really great book called that, The Molecule of More, that explains it. I mean, you can determine someone's political ideology by their dopamine. It's crazy.
That would not surprise me at all. The biological piece of how people act in the rest of their life. Just for example, when I look at the men in the Senate of the United States, most of them are overweight and kind of pink. They're not even, they're like white guys, but they're kind of bloated and pink, a lot of them, and I'm like, these are unhealthy people. So if they're unhealthy physically, they must be unhealthy in other ways too, which seems to be the case.
Look at some of the healthier Congress members have been my patients, and they care, and it's really tough. I mean, their schedules are insane. How much they have to travel and be doing stuff for all that, the stress. So I've had quite a few of them come to me. I mean, that it's so funny. I've had some of these top like judges, Congress people, such that come here because even they can't quite change the rules there, even though they know they should and they want it. I mean, it's just the whole system is so tied up. It's crazy.
Wow, you get to really meet some fascinating people that are, they're on the cutting edge of wanting to to do something alternative, but also, some of them I'm sure are paying the price for stressful and lifestyles.
Yeah. Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, look, I grew up in America. I love America, but I don't want people to have to come to Mexico to get it, but it is what it is. Luckily, we're close to the US. It makes it easy access and we can do things that they should be doing up there. They're just not right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting. I mean, I have had a guy on here that's we talked about. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he has a clinic in near Las Vegas, and that's where he works. And
Yeah.
he does some traveling with some of these health conventions, and he'll do treatments there. So he comes to you if you're in that city. It's kind of an
Nice.
interesting business model and helpful model. His goal, which is to get his surgical percentage rate down as low as possible,
Nice.
which is interesting for somebody who's a trained surgeon. I want to do less of those and more of this.
Yeah.
So big applause to him, for
Yeah. They usually can't wait to put that butcher jacket on and get the knives out.
oh, I know. So if people want to get a hold of you and the clinic, I know you have a great website because I went on there. Why don't you say the name again of the website and what people can do on that website? I'm sure there's people have questions they can contact you. I'm
Sure.
sure that's all the case.
Yeah. So they can go to www.dreambody.clinic. Scroll down on the homepage, all the treatments are listed. You can click, it's got info, prices, testimonials, studies. I mean, everything's there. We do our best to be as transparent as possible so you can make the right decision. And you can call us anytime for free consultations at 888-704-3977. And yeah, and that's the main site. We do have a new site, a new thing that we're rolling out. It's more on the experimental study side, is we're now offering what are called Muse cells. And these are multi-lineage stress-induced stem cells. So a mesenchymal stem cell it's not technically a stem cell, like I said, when it's in your body. It's working via the paracrine effect, the signals it sends out. Muse cells are found within mesenchymal stem cells, and you stress the MSCs until they die, and you're left with the Muse cells. And they're a true, like you think, they turn into the cell type you want to turn into. So the best studies they've done out of Japan are for heart health. They took a guy who had a heart attack and they put the Muse cells in via IV. They went to the heart, and you can see in the video, like they start acting like a macrophage, which is kind of a cleanup immune cell. And they essentially envelop dead cells or damaged cells, kind of eat them, and then they differentiate into, in this case, a heart cell, but a new, fresh one. So we waited a year before deciding to do this, and we're now working with the lady who discovered them, Dr. Desawa out of Japan. We had just flown her in. And so this is kind of the next level. We're framing it more like studies because we don't know how well they're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I'm very cautious with adding anything new, but these have the potential to just be next level. And there's been a lot of celebrities doing them lately, like the Kardashians, Chris Hemsworth. So we now have them and are offering those too. That one's www.dbcmucells.com. You can learn more there. Again, we don't know how well they're going to work, but they seem like they're going to be a pretty big deal and a true stem cell. So we're always learning, always trying to add more.
Well, thanks for talking to me today. What a great talk. I've learned quite a bit.
No, thanks, Bob.
Yeah, and maybe I'll see you down there.
Yeah, you just let me know, man. It's a quick flight.
It is, and the weather's beautiful. That's what we want to do. A little vacation. Best of luck to you and all your new endeavors.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. There's a YouTube channel where you can listen. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank Josh Ketner for being on the show. You can find out more at www.dreambody.clinic. Have a great day. Thank you.